What do I say to her? Chair. Mr. Long. Jeff Trump. The Chair of the Committee of the Whole in the State of the Union reports that the committee has had under consideration the bill H.R. 861 and pursuant to House Resolution 170 reports the bill back to the House with an amendment adopted in the Committee of the Whole. Under the rule, the previous question is ordered. Is a separate vote demanded on any amendments to the amendment reported from the Committee of the Whole? If not, the question is on the adoption of the committee amendment in the nature of a substitute as amended. Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed will say no. The ayes have it. The amendment is agreed to. The question is on engrossment and the third reading of the bill. Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed will say no. The ayes have it. Third reading.
A bill to rescind the third round of funding for the Neighborhood Stabilization Program and to terminate the program.
I have a motion to recommit at the desk.
House will be in order. Members will please take their conversations from the floor. What purpose does the gentleman from Iowa rise?
Mr. Speaker, I have a motion to recommit at the desk.
Is the gentleman opposed to the bill?
I am in its current form.
Gentleman qualifies. The clerk will report the motion.
Mr. Braley of Iowa moves to recommit the bill, H.R. 861, to the Committee on Financial Services with instructions to report the same to the House forthwith with the following amendment. In Section 3...
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to dispense with the reading.
Is there an objection?
The amendment.
Without objection, the motion is considered as read. Point of order is reserved. Gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes. House will be in order.
Mr. Speaker, this picture tells the story of why this amendment is so important. This isn't Wall Street. You don't see any hedge fund managers or investment bankers here. They're doing pretty well these days. This isn't the headquarters of BP. Most small towns are lucky to have a single convenience store, and they're even luckier if that convenience store sells gasoline. This is a main street in my state of Iowa, and there are far too many of these in communities in my state and in my district. And I guarantee you there are far too many of these in rural communities in your states. Because while Wall Street and big corporations are doing fine, our rural communities and small towns are facing a real crisis. And the Neighborhood Stabilization Program is making a real difference in rural America. I want to tell you about a woman from Olwine, a small town in my district. She's 23 years old. She only makes $22,000 a year working at a daycare. She grew up in Olwine and she wants to raise her children in Olwine. And the National Neighborhood Stabilization Program is helping her become a first-time homeowner. Now, our amendment would simply take the money that has already been allocated for this program and prioritize it for our rural communities so we can change the way that streets like this look. And so we can make sure that more moms can raise their kids in towns where they grew up. This amendment doesn't cost any money. It allows a mom to raise a child in her home community, and our amendment will not kill this bill. It would simply give our rural communities the ability to weather the worst crisis they've faced in a generation. Now, maybe our small towns or this young mom should incorporate as a bank. Maybe then they'd get the same kind of attention that we've given to Wall Street. Because, folks, Wall Street is getting through this crisis. Main streets are not. And it's time we answer this question. Are we going to stand with Wall Street and big oil and corporate CEOs, or are we going to stand up for small towns all across America that need our help now more than ever? And I'd like at this time to yield to my good friend from the state of Iowa, Congressman Boswell.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to speak on this. And again, I want to say this amendment does not kill the bill. I thank you for the opportunity to speak. Republicans have put forth a bill that again forces our middle class and our working families to sacrifice, and sacrifice, so they can continue the giveaways for big oil, billionaires, and corporations that outsource American jobs. As a former professional soldier, I approach our economy with a military eye to take the hill and get our economy going again. And we need all of our troops behind us. In this case, our troops are our workers, the middle-class Americans, who must be healthy and armed with the tools to rebuild the economy. Our camps are the communities that must have the resources to do just that. So why are our troops and communities in rural America being left behind? Rural main streets in Iowa have been devastated as Republicans have rewarded outsourcing. Manufacturing plants like in my district, like Maytag, all of you know who Maytag is. Newton, Iowa, they've been packed up and moved their jobs to Mexico. Many of you have similar situations. Rural workers have lost jobs in ethanol, biodiesel, wind turbine plants, and because we've given tax breaks to big oil while cutting investments in renewable energy. These communities have weathered farm crisis after crisis, and as Republicans defend Wall Street speculators tinkering with the markets that depend on, I urge my colleagues to say yes to rural America and the middle class. By supporting this amendment to H.R. 861, rural America is not blue or red. Rural America is simply hard-working of communities that are already struggling to keep the American dream alive for the residents to live, work, and believe in them. Thank you, and I yield back.
Mr. Speaker, to many people, rural America is a policy or a program. To Congressman Boswell and me, it's where we came from. That's why I urge all of my colleagues to vote for this motion to recommit, and I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman yields back. Gentleman yields back. For what purpose does the gentleman from California rise? Gentleman continue to reserve his point of order.
No, I withdraw my point of order.
Reservation is withdrawn. Gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes.
That was a very nice picture of a storefront. It was not a picture of a home. Now, why would you impose a terrible program on rural America that you don't want on urban America? You have to say, we've given away $6 billion of taxpayer monies, and it will never come back to the federal government. We're saying, let's preserve the last $1 billion. There's a huge lack of accountability in this program. The Inspector General of HUD has already identified multiple misuses of NSP money at the state level. The GAO has questioned the information system that places HUD at risk using the tracking system. How many of you want to use your money to buy this house that Chairman Backus has pointed out? Nobody. But taxpayers, guess what? We're using your money. The biggest problem with this program is unfair allocation. Now, rural America, you probably got ripped off in this whole process like everybody else did. Because let's say, where did the money go? In the SP1, we spent $4 billion. In SP2, $1.93 billion. We're saying the last $1 billion, let's at least save that for the taxpayers and use it for some beneficial purpose. Where did the money go? Let's see if it was fairly distributed. Let's look at my area. L.A. County got $26.3 million. San Bernardino County, one of the hardest hit, got $33.2 million. Orange County got $4.3 million. San Diego County, $5.1 million. A total of $68.9 million on hard-hit counties. Now, let's say, what did non-government agencies, groups get out there that are incorporated? Neighborhood Lending Partners Incorporated got $50 million. The Community Builders Incorporated got $78.6 million. Los Angeles Neighborhood Housing Service Incorporated got $60 million. Neighborhood Lending Partners of West Florida Incorporated got $50 million. And Chicanos por la Casa, Inc. got $137 million. Now, all of my counties got $68.9 million. The Community Builders got $78.6. Chicanos por la Casa got $137 million. Is that considered non-equitable allocation? It's non-equitable, period. It does not make sense. And we say $1.3 billion went to non-government agencies. Now, somebody said I was racist because I said Chicanos por la Casa got $137 million. They got 10% of all the funds given to non-government agencies. If it was Germans for affordable housing got $137 million, I would oppose it just like I oppose this one. Now, taxpayers understand clearly it did not prevent one foreclosure in this entire country. Not one person got to keep their home because we spent $6 billion. In fact, imagine the family who owned a home. Maybe the mom and pa got in trouble with their job. They couldn't quite make the payments. For the last 3 years, they've been unable to repair the plumbing. They couldn't replace the oven that wasn't working. A couple of windows were broke out. The house needed painting, and they had to sit there and let their house go back to the lender. To watch some entity, a nonprofit or government agency, buy that home, fix it up, and sell it to somebody else. How would you feel when nobody came to your aid when you were losing your home, but yet your tax dollars were used to buy that home to give it to somebody else? Now, understand clearly, the argument they've made is, look at all the money we gave to bail out the banks. Well, I got an update from Treasury today. 99% of the money that we lent to banks has been paid back, and guess what? We made $20 billion on it. But we gave 7 of it away to this program. So yes, we made 20. We ended up with a net 13 by lending the money that you say bailed out the banks. It was a loan. This program does nothing but say we're going to send you a check, and you never send us a dime back. And the sweet part is you can pay any amount of money you want for the house. It's almost impossible to violate the terms of this deal because there are no conditions. You can pay $800,000 for a house and sell it for $50. The requirement is whatever you pay for the house plus whatever you pay to rehabilitate the house, you have to sell it for less. And it doesn't say who you have to sell it to. Now, a nonprofit, not saying they would, could have a cousin who wanted to buy the house that they paid $180,000 for, and they could sell it legitimately for $20,000, and guess what? You've not violated the terms of NSP 1, 2, or 3, and you've not broken the law. And when you sell the house, if you sell it, you can take the money and recycle it again. You could even take this money and do a private venture with a private group, splitting profits and falling under the conditions of how you buy the house and sell the house, and money gets split. There's very few restrictions in this bill.
Time has
This is a terrible bill. I would encourage you no vote on the motion to recommit.
Without objection, the previous question is ordered. The question is on the motion to recommit. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed will say no. No. The noes have it.
I ask for a recorded
For
vote.
what purposes, gentlemen? Recorded vote is requested. Those favoring a recorded vote will rise. A sufficient number having risen, a recorded vote is ordered. Members will record their votes by electronic device. Pursuant to Clause 9 of Rule 20, the Chair will reduce to 5 minutes the minimum time for any electronic vote on the question of passage. This will be a 15-minute vote.
The underlying bill, H.R. 861, would end the program, the Neighborhood Stabilization Program, that helps governments and nonprofit groups buy and redevelop foreclosed and abandoned houses. A motion to recommit here, one last chance to change the bill before final passage. 15-minute vote on the House floor. We were showing a bit ago in the previous amendment votes testimony earlier today from Elizabeth Warren, who once headed the Congressional Oversight Panel for TARP. A couple of things on that. That will air in its entirety later in our program schedule. Look for schedule updates here on C-SPAN. And you can watch it online anytime in our video library at cspan.org. Ms. Warren was the previous chair of the Oversight Panel. She stepped down in September of last year and took over, at least temporarily, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. She was talking about that in testimony today. Ted Kaufman, the former senator from Delaware, was the last chair of the Congressional Oversight Panel on TARP. In fact, that panel today released its 30th and final report on the TARP program, and former Senator Kaufman will be our guest to talk about that tomorrow morning, 8:30 Eastern, and that will be on Washington Journal. So a 15-minute vote here on the House floor. The final passage vote coming up next. Get some more details on today's debate and the other housing-related bills the House has been debating over the last week or two. We talked to a Capitol Hill reporter earlier today. Stacey Caper is an economic staff writer with National Journal. White House Republicans want to end this program that's aimed at rehabilitating foreclosed homes.
This program, they believe, has just been a waste of taxpayer dollars. It fits in with the broader agenda of trying to cut government money that's been going towards programs dealing with housing and foreclosure issues. It's been one of a package of 4 bills that the House has been dealing with recently that are all aimed at sort of the same general idea of cutting back on the government's involvement in assisting with these housing relief programs.
And that fourth in that package of 4 is approved also in the rule today, that HAMP program, the mortgage modification program. Why aren't they taking up that bill today, and when are they going to take it up?
My understanding is that they will be coming back to that bill as soon as they get back from the recess when there's time on the floor that week. It's really the most controversial probably of these 4 bills that they have been working on. It's the administration's main modification program. It was intended originally to assist between 3 to 4 million borrowers. It's only reached a little over 600,000 with permanent loan modifications, so it has been ironically criticized from both the left and the right for different reasons. And the Democrats have wanted to improve HAMP and other foreclosure prevention programs, and Republicans, this is another cost savings mechanism. They think it's been wasteful and hasn't had much bang for its buck, so to speak.
You mentioned the reason that Republicans are opposed to some of these programs, in particular on this bill. What are Democrats saying about the measures, about the programs, and why they say these programs work?
Well, for one thing, there's been a lot of back and forth. There's been a number of Democrats who've been very engaged in the foreclosure crisis and trying to work on mortgage modifications. Maxine Waters, in particular, has been particularly engaged. I mean, she has been very critical of the Treasury Department for not ramping up its efforts. But one of the difficulties with HAMP is that there are certain eligibility criteria, and with the unemployment rate being higher now than it was a few years ago, it's been difficult for borrowers to qualify. They still have to be able to pay a mortgage even if it's at a reduced rate. So there's just been a lot of back and forth. The Democrats that support these programs say, rather than abandoning them, we need to really try to strengthen and improve them and deal with the problems and their shortfalls rather than give up altogether.
How has the White House weighed in on this neighborhood stabilization bill and the HAMP bill?
The White House has issued veto warnings for all 4 of the housing bills, 2 that were already passed in the House, this one that's due to be voted on today, and the HAMP one when they return from recess. The administration has said that all of these efforts not only help individuals, in the case of HAMP, hang on to their homes, with the neighborhood stabilization program, help to rebuild communities and prevent foreclosures from dragging down the home values of neighborhood properties. The administration says that these also help the broader economic recovery, and that it would be a mistake to end these programs, and it's issued a veto threat.
And assuming that the bill, in particular today, passes the House, what are the prospects in the Senate?
So far, there doesn't seem to be much appetite in the Senate among Democrats to engage in this debate. Discussions with senators there have been that, look, we understand that there's problems. We are hopeful that the backdrop of this is that there's this huge global mortgage servicing settlement that several federal agencies and state attorneys generals are working on, trying to get an agreement that would in part deal with the loan modification issue. They're hopeful for that to reach some sort of conclusion that could assist homeowners and perhaps find ways to enforce new servicing standards that would be helpful in the HAMP program with modifications. There has not seemed to be much appetite so far in the Senate among Democrats to have this debate.
Stacey Caper covers economics issues for National Journal, reporting on the debate on the home mortgage bills today here on the House floor. Thanks for the update. You can read her work at nationaljournal.com. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
The House winding up its legislative day, a motion to recommit vote on a bill that would end the neighborhood stabilization program. This is a federal program giving state and local governments money to buy and upgrade abandoned buildings. This is a 15-minute vote. Final passage vote is next, and that will be a 5-minute vote. Early start in the House tomorrow morning. They get underway at 9 o'clock Eastern, and it's one of those days, if you like watching the House and you have a DVR, you may want to get it rolling, because a couple of interesting bills, and certainly lively debate on a bill that would defund National Public Radio. That's one of the bills. Also, a War Powers resolution. Dennis Kucinich has been talking about this for a bit. He's done it in previous Congresses. and we'll bring it up again for a vote tomorrow. This is a War Powers resolution dealing with withdrawal of U.S. troops from Afghanistan by the end of the year. That's coming up tomorrow on the House floor, but it came up today in discussion in a House Armed Services Committee hearing with David Petraeus. General Petraeus was on Capitol Hill for the second day in a row talking about U.S. policy in Afghanistan, and he was asked about this proposed resolution by Dennis Kucinich. Alabama Republican Representative Martha Roby posed the question to General Petraeus this morning.
General Petraeus is the commander of our forces in Afghanistan. What is your view on the advisability of the House of Representatives passing a resolution offered by Representative Kucinich that would call for the removal of all U.S. forces from Afghanistan no later than December 31st, 2011? And specifically, how do you believe our troops would view such a measure, and how do you believe the Taliban and al-Qaeda would view such a measure?
Well, to start with the latter elements, the Taliban and al-Qaeda obviously would trumpet this as a victory, as a success. Needless to say, it would completely undermine everything that our troopers have fought so much for and sacrificed so much for. Ultimately, though, this is about our vital national security interests, and as President Obama has identified them, foremost among these is ensuring that al-Qaeda and other transnational extremists cannot reestablish sanctuaries such as they had in Afghanistan under Taliban rule. When the 9/11 attacks were planned in Afghanistan, the initial training of the attackers was carried out in Afghanistan before the attackers moved on to Germany and then U.S. flight schools and then carried out their acts of terror. So needless to say, this would close the door on the very, very hard-fought effort and end a mission that I think is seeking to achieve a very, very important security objective of our country as well as of our allies. Again, there are 48 troop-contributing nations, including the U.S. I think among the biggest alliances, certainly way beyond just NATO. It's NATO plus ISAF troop-contributing nations. And what it would do in the region, of course, would be of really incalculable consequence as well.
And for our troops?
Well, you know, when we have taken, in particular, I think, tough losses, and I remember the first time when I was a division commander in Iraq in 2003, and we had a horrible night. We had two Black Hawk helicopters that collided. One was circling an operation, the other, for some reason, transited, and 17 great troopers were killed in a single crash in a single night. And as you might imagine, this is all that a commander, that's all that an organization can think about, even after we had done the recovery in the middle of the night and everything else. And on the way out of the command post the next morning, we were trying to go through the motions of getting back to the normal battle rhythm, because you have to drive on, you have to continue the mission. And it was a young private first class actually saw me. He was walking out of the hallway of the command post, and he literally put his arm around me, and he said, "You know, sir, that's 17 reasons to get this thing right." We've had well over 1,000 reasons to get this thing right, and many thousands more whose lives have been changed forever because of grievous wounds. Again, obviously, this would not allow us to get this right.
Thank you so much. I yield back.
General David Petraeus from earlier today before the House Armed Services Committee. You can see all of that hearing and the one from yesterday in front of the Senate Armed Services Committee in our video library at cspan.org. On the House floor, a motion to recommit vote ahead of final passage on a bill that ends a federal program giving state and local governments the ability, the money to buy and upgrade abandoned housing. This 15-minute vote winding down over in the Senate. They continue today debating the Small Business Programs Reauthorization Bill. And earlier today, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell said that he won't vote for another stopgap spending measure, short-term spending measure. This after he won't vote for it until there's a full-year defense appropriations bill. This after the House passed that bill, that CR, yesterday, late in the day, and the Senate possibly will take it up hopefully before the end of this week. They have to, in other words, to be ahead of the end of the current continuing resolution, which expires on Friday the 18th. I want to give you a short sample of what Senator McConnell and Senator McCain said about the CR on the Senate floor today as this vote continues here on the House floor.
I'd say to my friend the leader and to all of my colleagues, it is of deep concern to the Secretary of Defense and to this member, and I'm sure many other members, that we are defending this nation on a two-week to two-week basis, and it is harming our ability to defend this nation's national security. And I know we are probably now going to go into another three-week continuing resolution. Is it the intention of the Republican leader, along with myself and others, that we will not do another continuing resolution unless we take up a defense appropriations bill for the year? We can't do this to the men and women who are serving, to deprive them of the equipment, the training, and the wherewithal when we're in two wars. And it's vital, in my view, that we not allow another continuing resolution without addressing the defense appropriations bill, hopefully and which should be for the remainder of the year.
Well, I would say to my friend from Arizona, he's entirely correct. I don't intend myself to support another continuing resolution that does not contain the full-year defense appropriation bill. I think everybody understands the urgency of that. My friend from Arizona, our leader on these issues, has been very clear and articulate about it, and I can say with total confidence that we're not, House and Senate are not going to be passing another continuing resolution without the funding for the Defense Department for the remainder of this fiscal year.
I thank the Republican leader, and I thank my colleague from Louisiana. And I hope this message is transmitted to our friends and colleagues on the other side of the Capitol, that they shouldn't send over another CR without funding the Defense Department for the rest of the year.
I would just say to my friend, Mayor, I believe his position is shared by the leadership of our party in the House, and I think there is no chance that we will not complete work on the defense appropriation bill in the next few weeks.
Thank you.
The Republican leader and Senator McCain on the Senate floor earlier today saying there, as you heard, they don't want to vote for another short-term spending measure unless a full-year defense spending bill were included. So that gums up the works a little bit, considering the fact the House passed that CR yesterday, 271 to 158. That is the sixth short-term spending bill for fiscal year 2011. The House version would fund the federal government through April the 8th. On the House floor now, winding up a vote on a motion to recommit ahead of final passage on a bill that would end the neighborhood stabilization program. That's next.
On this vote, the yeas are 153, the nays are 272. The motion is not adopted. The question is on passage of the bill. Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed will say no. The ayes have it. Gentleman from California. The gentleman from Massachusetts.
I ask for a recorded vote.
Recorded vote is requested. Those favoring a recorded vote will rise. A sufficient number having risen, a recorded vote is ordered. Members will record their votes by electronic vote. This will be a 5-minute vote.
Final passage vote on H.R. 861, which would rescind the third round of funding for the Neighborhood Stabilization Program and end the program. This is a program that helps governments and nonprofit groups buy and redevelop foreclosed and abandoned houses. Last recorded vote of the day, it's 5 minutes. The House is voting on a bill that would stop funding for and end the Neighborhood Stabilization Program. Should be the last recorded vote of the day. They're in early tomorrow, 9 o'clock Eastern. A couple of items on the agenda, including a bill ending funding for National Public Radio. Also, a War Powers resolution proposed by Ohio Congressman Democrat Dennis Kucinich, dealing with U.S. troops and withdrawal from Afghanistan by year's end. All of that getting underway tomorrow morning at 9 Eastern here on C-SPAN.
On this vote, the yeas are 242, the nays are 182. The bill is passed. Without objection, a motion to reconsider is laid on the table. For what purpose does the gentleman from California rise?
Speaker, I send the desk a privileged report from the Committee on Rules for filing under the rule.
Clerk will report the title.
Report to accompany House Resolution 174, resolution providing for consideration of H.R. 1076 to prohibit federal funding of National Public Radio and the use of federal funds to acquire radio content.
Referred to the House calendar and ordered printed. For what purpose does the gentleman from Missouri rise?
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to ask for unanimous consent to have my name removed as co-sponsor of H.R. 979 that would amend Chapter 89 of Title V, U.S. Code, to ensure program integrity, transparency, and cost savings in the pricing and contracting of prescription drug benefits under the Federal Employers Health Benefits Act. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Without objection. The chair is prepared to entertain 1 minute after the House has maintained order. 1 moment, please.
The House will be in order. For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Florida rise? You're recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize an extraordinary school in my South Florida community, the Miami Hebrew Academy. Founded in 1947 with just a handful of students, the Hebrew Academy was the first Jewish day school in the southeastern United States. Today, the Hebrew Academy has grown to over 600 students and serves with distinction the educational and religious needs of our Jewish families and students. In addition to a phenomenal general education, the students of Miami Hebrew Academy are taught the values of the Torah, the benefits of a strong American-Israeli partnership, and the importance of Holocaust education. I cannot thank the Hebrew Academy enough for its leadership in both the general and spiritual education of our South Florida community. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the time.
And for what purpose does the gentlewoman from Nevada rise?
I rise to address the House for 1 moment and to revise and extend my remarks.
You're recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to express my sympathy for the people of Japan as they battle a nuclear disaster that threatens lives and their environment. And I rise to reject calls for more wasteful spending, $100 billion more of wasteful spending on the Yucca Mountain project in response to Japan's nuclear tragedy. Dumping radioactive waste on top of an earthquake fault located inside a volcanic zone 90 miles outside of Las Vegas will only increase the danger to Americans from radioactive waste produced at nuclear power plants. Nuclear industry plans call for decades of waste shipments to be unleashed on communities across the United States that are unprepared to deal with the death and destruction that this radioactive garbage can cause. Whether it's a tragic accident involving a train or a truck carrying nuclear waste, or a deliberate 9/11-style terrorist attack on even one shipment, the risk to human lives and potential for billions of dollars in economic damage is staggering. Let us stop pushing Yucca Mountain and start focusing on securing the waste at existing plant sites stored in hardened bunkers engineered to keep this material isolated from our fellow citizens. Let's stop. What we are witnessing in Japan. These pro-dump forces should be put concerns at safeguarding lives above concerns about profits. I yield back the balance of my time.
And for what purpose does the gentleman from Arkansas rise?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's with a heavy heart I come to the floor today to mourn the passing of Derry Brownfield, a pioneer in the farm broadcasting industry. As the only Ag-Ri reporter and farm broadcaster in Congress, I feel compelled to honor him today. Derry's influence across the farm broadcasting industry was far-reaching, and it will be felt for years to come. While many overlook the importance of Ag-Ri reporting, Derry understood the necessity. He prided himself on speaking as a farmer, to the farmer, for the farmer, from the farm. His vision and passion for informing and educating rural America was unparalleled and an inspiration to the farmers and farm broadcasters he influenced. There's now a noticeable hole in the agriculture community, but we can take what Derry taught us and honor his legacy by continuing the tradition of quality agricultural reporting. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield back the balance of my time.
And for what purpose does the gentleman from New Mexico rise? Massachusetts, excuse us. Without objection, the gentleman from Massachusetts is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in honor of the great holiday of St. Patrick's Day. My district is the home of the largest population of Irish Americans in the nation. Like many of my constituents, my paternal grandparents immigrated from Ireland at the turn of the 20th century. When they came to this country, they had all their worldly possessions in one trunk each. Thereafter, they had 8 children, 5 of whom served in our armed forces, 1 of whom gave his life for this country. So many of my friends and neighbors share similar stories of sacrifice and dedication to family and to their new country. It's no wonder that Irish Americans have come to embody the values of loyalty, community, and hard work in the fabric of our nation. And as they say, everyone is Irish on St. Patrick's Day, so let us all embody those values as we tackle the challenges facing our nation currently. May the road rise up to meet you. May the wind be always at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face. The rains fall soft upon your fields, and until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of his hands.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Texas rise?
Request permission to address the House for 1 minute.
Without objection, the gentleman from Texas is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, 9 months after the administration sent 1,200 National Guard troops to the border, Washington has decided it's time for the troops to withdraw. In my opinion, this decision is dangerously irresponsible. Violence has already spilled into the United States from Mexico. The 16 Texas border counties are packed with foreign nationals charged with serious crimes in the United States. And according to the GAO, 56% of the border is wide open. And instead of fulfilling their duty to protect the people of this country, Washington orders retreat. It defies logic that we would remove the National Guard from the border. If anything, we need more troops on the ground. Doesn't Washington know that the border is a war zone? To abandon the third front puts Americans at risk with cross-border crime. This is a national security issue that cannot be ignored. It is the first duty of the federal government to protect the people and the homeland, not order retreat. And that's just the way it is. I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Ohio rise? Without objection, the gentlewoman from Ohio is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to rise this evening on behalf of the people of the state of Ohio to offer our great heartfelt support to our brothers and sisters in the nation of Japan. Every person in the world really is bound with with compassion and with hope that we can find a way to help heal the great damage that is occurring there and has occurred. I know that we have over 12 naval vessels that have moved across the Pacific to offer assistance, and nations around the world will try to help the people of Japan. My message this evening is one of hope to the Japanese people, so many that I have met in my own career, certainly their national leaders in the Diet, in their executives, so many educational leaders, and just the people of Japan who've been so kind to us on our visits there. I hope they know that Japanese Americans living in our country, certainly in Ohio's 9th District, are bound with them in an attitude of rebuilding and healing. And as the state of Ohio's name means hello, we offer tonight a very special hello to the valiant people of Japan. Mr. Speaker, I yield back my remaining time.
The chair lays before the House the following personal request.
Leaves of absence requested for Mr. Nadler of New York after 1 p.m. on Wednesday, March 16th, and for the balance of the week, and Mr. Labrador of Idaho for today and the balance of the week.
Without objection, the requests are granted. Under the Speaker's announcement policy of January 5, 2011, the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Gohmert, is recognized for 60 minutes as the designee of the Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I do echo the comments of my friend, Ms. Kaptur from Ohio. Our hearts do go out, our prayers do go out for the people in Japan. Difficult time there. And at the same time, there are so many people struggling in this country. There are so many people out of work. And although in the last week, gas prices have come down some, sadly in the wake of the Japan tragedy, but there's no doubt speculation will eventually go back up unless this administration stops, ceases, desists in putting our natural resources off limits for our use, to help our economy, to create jobs for our citizens. You know, certainly other countries welcome the pig-headedness of those in charge in this administration who are determined to keep us from using our own resources. We had a hearing today in Natural Resources Committee, and Chairman of the Railroad Commission, regulating body in Texas, Ms. Ames Jones, had indicated, and I was not aware of exactly what she'd said, but apparently this administration's making a big deal of reopening and granting a permit actually was not a new permit. This is something that had been pending, that had been, was a re-release and was not a new permit. And how ironic, the ultimate irony, that this administration's first supposed new permit would be to a drilling project in which British Petroleum, BP, would be a major, or the major investor. How about that? This administration simply cannot get away from trying to help their buddies at BP. It was interesting
to hear our friend across the aisle from Massachusetts in our hearing today indicate that in the European waters off their coasts, they have the same drillers, the same international companies, and yet the safety records over there are much better than they are in the Gulf of Mexico. Quite interesting, because the only difference is, in this country, the administration is run by those that help out President Obama, those who help out President Obama, and they have sadly looked the other way while BP racked up safety violation after safety violation after dozens of safety violations. In the meantime, the other major drillers had 1, 2 violations. Over the same period, BP racked up dozens of violations, and then hundreds of violations until they had reached around 800 safety violations. But did this administration rein them in? No. And then we later read that actually when this administration could not bring itself to really come down on BP after the disastrous blowout at the Deepwater Horizon, that BP executives were negotiating and working out the day, the time, the place that they would come out in support of President Obama's and our Democratic colleagues' great pride and joy called the Cap-and-Trade Bill. I don't want to offend people by calling it the Cap-and-Trade Bill, so we'll call it the Cap-and-Trade Bill instead of what I really think it is. But they were negotiating to come out and be the administration's one big international energy company that embraced this whole cap-and-trade bill. Why? Because they had special perks they were getting out of it with regard to carbon sales. And so they were coming on board. Well, of course this administration did not want to come down on BP for this cap-and-trade bill. Of it, even though Americans are going to be paying out the nose for energy once this thing kicks in. Americans will be losing their jobs right and left, but boy, we'll make a lot of money because we're cronies with the administration. But they were going to come out and support. And the administration didn't want to shut them down. They were hoping that what BP was telling them about it not really being that big a deal would be true. So, of course, the president didn't fly down there immediately like he had told President Bush or said about President Bush that he should have after Katrina. This president waited and waited, really didn't want to come down on BP because those were his buddies that were going to help him get across the finish line the cap-and-trade bill. They're the guys that had safety violation after safety violation. So it gets a little difficult to hear friends across the aisle talk about cronyism when we know, when you really examine the facts, where the cronyism lies. We've heard people talk about how offensive it was that there were offshore leases that had language removed from the pricing from which royalties were paid that cost the United States Treasury billions of dollars in royalties that rightfully would have been the U.S. Treasury's, except that our hearings indicated that there was actually at least 1 or 2 people in the Clinton administration who had it pointed out, hey, we need this language in here that allows us to get the amount of royalties we should, but they were instructed we're leaving it out here. When we had a hearing and a friend of the Clinton administration, a former appointee of the Clinton administration, had done his research, and I asked him why he had not questioned those people who had ordered that that language be kept out, he said, well, they left the administration, so we really can't question them. They're in the private sector now. Well, you do a little further research, and you find out the private sector, that these people that cost the United States government billions of dollars and made billions of dollars for the cronies of the Democrats in the big oil, actually had gone to work for British Petroleum. How about that? So to have heard the former Clinton appointee who did the investigation said, well, I couldn't possibly question these people because they left and they were in the private sector, I was surprised, because if someone intentionally and knowingly defrauds the government, it's a crime. And the FBI doesn't have any trouble normally going after folks, subpoenaing records. They know how to do it. They do it quite well. But they didn't go after these individuals because, well, they'd left government service, and this one in particular had gone to work for British Petroleum. How about that? So imagine our surprise in 2009 when we find out that the person who was most knowledgeable about the language being taken out that cost us billions of dollars and had gone to work for British Petroleum had now been brought on to the Obama administration to supervise these offshore leases. How about that? Or, to quote our friends from Saturday Night Live, what's up with that? They cost the country billions of dollars, went to work for British Petroleum, and then you bring them back on and put them in charge of the offshore leases. And then we find out that those who worked for the Interior Department, the offshore rig inspectors, who stand between this country and disastrous problems off the coast that are man-made, were the ones within the Bureau of Land Management that were allowed to unionize. Well, that sounds kind of strange because, you know, union negotiations, normally you go back to the inception of unions, it was to overcome issues of corporate greed. It didn't seem to fit here, because here were people that were supposed to stand between our nation and man-made disasters off our coast, and they were allowed to unionize, because we know unions, they'll negotiate, oops, these folks can't work too many hours, can't work too many hours in succession, you got to do this, you can't go this, you know, there are all kinds of things negotiated. It'd be like negotiating a union contract on behalf of the military soldiers. You can't overwork them. You can't expect them to work too late in the evening, travel too much. When people are standing between us and disaster, it just is not appropriate to have contracts negotiated in a union manner, because they stand between us and disaster. It's not appropriate for people in the military, and it's not appropriate for offshore rig inspectors. If they have to work extra hours, they have to travel extra, they have to do some task to ensure that our country does not get devastated because of man-made negligence, disaster off our coast, they'll have to do that job. And if they don't like it, go to work for the private sector. That is the way it was supposed to be. Not to have unions organize people who stand between us and disaster. Because if you go back to the founding, the founders anticipated, and some of them wrote in their letters, in their diaries, that we had within our grasp, they indicated, the chance to do what philosophers have only dreamed about, to govern ourselves. We can understand a need for union collective bargaining to overcome corporate greed in cases where it's occurred, but to need unions to extort things from the government that's supposed to be we the people in a democratic republic? Offshore inspectors standing between us and disaster, and they get to have a bargaining session where, gee, we don't want them to work too many hours, even if it meant saving America, saving thousands of jobs. Well, in the hearing where we heard from the director of the Bureau of Land Management that was over that whole system, when I asked, what are the checks and balances, since you have these inspectors, these offshore rig inspectors unionized, what are the checks and balances that protect us from disaster? It should be these offshore inspectors. So how do you ensure that the allegations that we read and been hearing that some of the administration's offshore inspectors had been bribed, been given perks to look the other way with safety violations, and they had done so? We'd read allegations of that kind of thing. So what is it that protects us and ensures there are checks and balances to make sure offshore inspectors are not bribed, are not given things to make them look the other way? And the director indicated they do have a solid system of checks and balances for such offshore inspectors. They send them out in teams of 2 people at a time. That way we could rest assured that if one inspector were subjected to some type of bribe or perk, something to look the other way, the other inspector would report them, would refuse to accept the bribe or the perk and looking the other way, and so we could rest assured we were protected. Apparently, she was not aware that I was aware that the last 2-person team of inspectors that went out were sent by this administration out to the Deepwater Horizon before the disastrous blowout was a father and son unionized inspection team. That's who was sent out to stand between us and disaster. Now, there are some disasters like earthquake, like tsunamis, that insurance companies call acts of God. I still do too. I don't believe that God causes those things to happen to punish people. I think He has the power to do so. But we do have the power to build and to inspect and to prepare for disasters so that we can mitigate and minimize damages after such things occur. But you can't very well mitigate and minimize when you are allowing the kind of abuses that have gone on from this administration with the cronies in big oil like British Petroleum. And it's interesting to have heard today friends across the aisle trying to wrap British Petroleum around Republicans' necks as an albatross, when actually the group that has protected British Petroleum over and over has allowed them to continue to drill. And when this administration finally got around to granting a new permit that really wasn't new after all, it happens to be to their cronies, their buddies, good old crony capitalism, where BP is a major investor. How about that? On the other hand, what's up with that? BP gets the latest right to drill in the Gulf, when others have lost thousands of jobs, families have been left destitute, and that means not just that the workers who work on those oil rigs have been hurt, their families have been hurt, and then all the places where they did business have been hurt, the restaurants, clothing stores, everybody who did business with those have been suffering because this administration did not punish the company responsible for nearly 800 safety violations. It punished all those who were not their cronies. And how ironic that the biggest financial supporter of this administration and Democratic politics, named George Soros, had as his biggest individual investment in Brazilian drilling, oil and gas. How ironic that when this administration granted a $2 billion loan from the United States of money we don't have, over 40 cents of every dollar of that $2 billion that we have to borrow and pay interest on, we have loaned it to Brazil to do offshore drilling that we won't allow here. Oh, but by the way, that helps the Democrats' biggest supporter financially, George Soros, with his biggest individual investment, so therefore it's okay to drill off the coast of Brazil with money borrowed from America at low interest rates that we have to borrow from other countries at a different interest rates. That's just astounding. And then we have calls to eliminate the method that has produced over 100 years, perhaps 200 years, of natural gas reserves. We've been provided information that indicates that if all of the 18-wheelers in America started utilizing natural gas instead of gasoline or diesel, then we would cut our dependency on those who hate us by 50%. But no, we're not going to do that. In fact, there are measures being pushed by this administration and the EPA to eliminate our ability to utilize over 100, 200 years of natural gas that could provide our electricity, even cutting the need for more nuclear power plants. It could be of tremendous assistance in cutting our reliance on foreign oil, and this administration wants to eliminate that ability. It makes no sense. Our hearts still go out to Japan for the decimation that's occurred, for the loss of life and livelihoods. And this administration has expressed that so eloquently. But not so for this administration's actual activities to help the lives and livelihoods in the Gulf Coast area of those who this administration didn't save their job, they cost them their job. They cost them their livelihood. They caused gasoline prices to go up because we will not help ourselves. We were told when gasoline reached $4 a gallon that probably 25% or more of that was speculation. Well, when speculators see that we're doing nothing to help ourselves with our own energy needs, and in fact we're making it more and more difficult to produce our own oil, gas, natural resources to take care of ourselves, and instead are going deeper and deeper in debt to countries that don't like us. Thank goodness we're friends with Canada and they're helpful in our energy needs. But we're funding some of the very terrorism we're concerned about in the Middle East because we refuse to use our own natural resources. I was told by a Chinese gentleman that he thought he had figured out what our energy policy was, because often the Chinese, they look far-sighted. They look down the road. They try to examine issues and policies in a far-sighted manner, generations down the road, when we here in America sometimes have a hard time looking at what we're going to do tonight. Certainly tomorrow is a stretch. But anyway, this Chinese gentleman had said, I think we figured out what you are doing. You continue constantly to put your own natural resources off limits, and that forces the rest of the world to use all of their natural resources, and then eventually everyone will have used their natural resources but you, and then you'll be the only one with natural resources. You'll still be the superpower, and you'll still be the super dominant country in the world because everyone else lost their resources, they're used up, and you still have yours. And I told him I wish I could take credit and say, you caught us, that's our plan. Have everybody else use up their natural resources, but we haven't been that strategic in our thinking. No, we're just having people say, it may devastate the economy. Obviously it is, it does, when you put your natural resources off limits. But they claim that will save the environment, not understanding that when you devastate an economy and people are losing their jobs and they can't pay their bills, they're not concerned about the environment. They're concerned about getting by and just living. And it's only when you have a vibrant economy, like we did have, that you have a country where we're concerned about pollution of air and water, and we rein it in. Instead, policies of this administration are sending more and more jobs overseas, where they pollute 4 to 10 times more than we do doing the same job, and yet that pollution goes into the same atmosphere and often floats over into our country. Mercury, toxic materials come floating up because we ran those manufacturers off thinking we were doing some good for the economy and for the environment, and we were hurting both. That's not the way it works when you have natural resources, when you have been so richly blessed as we have in this country with so many resources. You're expected to be good stewards, use those resources wisely, but don't be an idiot and not use them. We've been blessed with them, use them, help the environment, help the economy, and you help the world. And as I mentioned here before, but I've not forgotten, an African, a West African, told me last year when I was over in West Africa that they were all excited when we elected an African American as president, but they had seen this president's policies weakening America, and he asked me to make sure people here understood that when we weaken or allow America to grow weaker, we hurt the peace-loving people around the world, particularly Christians who want to live in peace. Because he said, when you allow the United States to get weaker, we don't have hope of anyone coming to our rescue when people come after us. You're our hope in this world. Please tell your friends in Congress and in the administration, don't keep weakening your country. You're hurting those who hope and want peace around the world. We owe it to ourselves. We owe it to all of those who want peace around the world and count on us to act responsibly. Now, I know the Obama administration, those in the Interior Department have said, gee, we're going to not be allowing these risky ventures out in the Gulf of Mexico, and yet they turn around and give the most unconscionable violator of safety regulations to be the major investor in the permit they just released. And what about these major oil companies that keep being demonized? A moratorium in the Gulf has caused many of them to move rigs to other countries. They won't be back for a number of years, if at all. We're costing ourselves thousands of jobs and forcing ourselves to send more money to countries that hate our guts. And what about those who are unable to just move because they're international big companies? The independent oil companies, of which we have numerous in Texas and in Louisiana, other Gulf states. Well, they can't just take off and go to Brazil or go to other countries. They go out of business. They got nowhere else to go because this administration is putting them and those they hire and those they buy from out of business. It makes no sense to keep shooting ourselves in the foot and hurting those who rely on us. Now, we've had a temporary cessation in the explosion in gas prices. There is a chance here if the administration will take advantage of it and quit running off more jobs with more regulations and continuing an actual moratorium, in fact, on offshore drilling. If the administration will take advantage of this timeout and say, you know what, we've seen the light, we've heard the hue and cry from across America about expensive gas prices, we've heard the hue and cry about 100-plus years of natural gas, so we're going to encourage cars or 18-wheelers to start utilizing natural gas for their fuel. It does not produce carbon monoxide, which truly is poisonous and dangerous to human life. And it's a good idea. My friend across the aisle, Dan Boren, has a great bill, and I'm hoping that in the House we'll move it, and the Senate will take it up, and the President will sign it, and we can help ourselves get off such incredible reliance on foreign oil. It's time to start helping ourselves. It's time for people to stop helping those simply because they have helped them get elected. It's time for people here in Washington to follow our oath, protect our country, and that includes by helping create a strong economy. That means, like doctors who have taken the oath to do no harm, we should take the same oath. First, do no harm. Quit trying to force people out of business because you don't like them. Once we do that, we'll be on the road to a greater economy than this nation has ever experienced. Now, I want to finish up. I was given a book of historical nature. It's called Mr. Jones, Meet the Master. It has sermons and prayers of Peter Marshall during his time as chaplain of the United States Senate during the 1940s. And it's got some wonderful material in here, and I would just like to finish my time by reading a prayer by the chaplain of the U.S. Senate as he prayed it in the U.S. Senate. Senate Chaplain Peter Marshall prayed these words in the U.S. Senate: Our Father in heaven, give us the long view of our work and our world. Help us to see that it is better to fail in a cause that will ultimately succeed than to succeed in a cause that will ultimately fail. May thy will be done here, and may thy program be carried out above party and personality, beyond time and circumstance, for the good of America. and the peace of the world. Through Jesus Christ our Lord, amen. That was the prayer of Chaplain Peter Marshall during his time as Chaplain of the United States Senate. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I yield back.
Under the Speaker's announced policy of January